ABC Television. The House of Rest.
Welcome to Pass It On, a show that wants to make sure that you as a mentor, as a parent, as a professional, you as a couple, invest your life in the life of somebody else who needs your wisdom. Imagine all the wisdom that you have. Imagine all the care, all the experiences you have, your giftings, abilities, experiences, things you know and have enjoyed and you know so well. And there is this other person around your life who needs that wisdom, who needs you to invest in them, who needs just to experience who you are, and their lives will totally change. Why is it not possible? Why is it impossible for you to plug in? Those are the conversations we want to be able to have with you. And in this show, we are going to talk about you are meant to mentor. Meant to mentor basically means there's a reason why you are existing in the lives of people, and there's something you can do. There's a contribution that your life should have in the lives of other people. Now, one of the questions that most people usually ask about mentorship, and I always like to maybe even put it in a better way, why do we have reluctant mentors? Why is it possible, why is it that most people keep on asking, I would love to mentor, but I'm not sure I'm interested, or it looks impossible, or they give all these reasons why they don't invest and why they are reluctant in mentoring. Well, there are around 5 reasons why people don't mentor, or why they are reluctant to mentor. And I want to take you through. The first thing is that as an individual, you don't feel that it will make a difference. One of the reasons people don't mentor, they feel, will giving my words, my experiences, sharing the competencies, the things that I have learned, will it make a difference? I'm not sure. I don't think I have really done much worth, for somebody to experience, for somebody to learn from. And so they feel it won't make a difference. So why should I invest my life when I don't think it really makes a difference? In fact, some people who may have identity challenges will even say, I feel that I don't amount to much. There's nothing I have achieved. I haven't achieved grand things, and that's why it's impossible for me, or I don't feel it's worth to invest in mentoring. And that is actually one of those lies. Most people will lie to themselves that it won't make a difference. And you know what? Let me give you an example. When you're in high school and you had somebody who was a professional and they give you their thoughts or their wisdom or their ideas about how life would change, it's amazing how you'd soak those ideas. Because where you're in a place of need, and there's somebody who's been there, done that, and as Americans say, bought the t-shirt. They already know they are very good at this area, and you're not. And so any thoughts or ideas that they give you above and beyond what you're thinking will be a huge value add. So I usually tell mentors who are reluctant to mentor because they feel they won't make a difference. Sometimes the intention is not really for you to deliberately go and make a difference, but to give the wisdom that you have and let the person who is receiving decide what they will do with it. The second reason why people don't mentor is that some people will say, I do not know where to start. They think, mentorship looks like a complex conversation, and I don't know, where do I begin? How do I best invest in the life of this person? Do I begin with a relationship? Do I begin with talking to them? Do we begin with a cup of tea? How do we do it? And because it's looking confusing, then they end up becoming reluctant to even start their journey. And I think in a previous episode, we talked about where do you start in connecting with the young people. And basically what we are trying to say is this: there are opportunities. And we actually talked about, connect. We're saying, there are opportunities for you to care, there are opportunities for you to open up your lives, there are opportunities to notice the young people or the possible mentees. There are opportunities for you to nurture them, where you're investing in their lives and you're beginning a relationship and you can be able to do a value add. The opportunity is to just encourage, and so that they are interested and they are, they say, at least I know when I'm struggling and haven't figured out, there's this person who totally encourages me. There are opportunities to even talk to God about mentees, where you can be able to engage with them and pray over them and be able to contribute or partner in the work that God is doing in the life of that mentee. And so there are opportunities for you. So it's true, it could be a reason why you bring it up, but you know what? You can start somewhere and you can watch that previous episode as we're just talking about that. That reason that people have give is that you never experienced great mentorship. And so you disqualify yourself because you really never had a mentor. And I always like to use my example and say, you know what? Maybe you did or you did not. But if you did have a great mentor, then you totally know the value of investing your life in the life of someone. Because you experience it yourself in a season in your life or for a particular phase of your life, or maybe even for many years, like I did. And I've given my example over and over with that George, where he invested in my life for 7 years, deliberate journey with me to make me the person that I am today. Of course, with the help of God and other supportive mentors. But there's a role that you can actually be able to, since you already experienced, or you lacked that experience. Where you didn't have somebody at a point or a phase in your life where you really needed a relationship with somebody older who was more experienced in an area, and you missed out on it. And that struggle that you went through, you make a decision, you know what, I will never allow somebody else to go through this because I went through it. And so either way, you should not say because I didn't have a great mentorship relationships, I will not. In fact, you become the one who is initiating that conversation. Why? Because you missed out on it. You may say, I will never allow somebody else to make that miss that opportunity because I am there. The other reason why people are reluctant to mentor is you are abandoned or you are hurt by a mentor. And some people in their lives have met someone or a mentor who totally hurt you, totally disappointed you. You opened up your life with them, and I can give you scores of stories that I know. In fact, I remember one church, where some two young ladies said, we will never share. We will never look for mentors because they, in confidence, shared about the challenges that they were existing, and the mentors who were existing in their lives at that moment, instead of them keeping it to themselves or journeying, they actually shared it like a prayer item. And all the women knew the challenges that these two girls were facing. And so these girls ended up saying, you know what, why should I open my life to someone who will not honor confidentiality? And I always like to say, in as much as you are hurt growing up, as a mentor now, you can still be able to learn from the same lessons and be able to invest and say, you know what, I missed out on these opportunities, this never worked, but I'm going to be willing to invest my life in somebody else. And I'm going to do a better job than the one that was done. Because these people were, in that regard, they hurt you, they made your life difficult. They probably even talked about things that you thought were private. But now you have the opportunity to actually keep those as secrets, be able to give value, be able to, bring that confidentiality element, be able to journey deliberately. Or maybe some people, were abandoned. They started the mentorship, but then when you had challenges, they were like, I'm not going to be investing in this individual. I am tired. And so you can be able to stay all the way because you already have that negative experience of being hurt or abandoned by the mentor. So yes, in fact, you can use those pains to be gains for somebody else. You say, regardless of whether they are receiving the mentorship or they are challenged or they are taking up slowly, you're going to be willing to journey with them. And then finally, the other reason why people are reluctant to mentor is that you do not know the power of mentorship. And for this one, I want to, go and share a couple of verses, that speak to me and speak to mentors. When you do our training programs, you usually share, why is it important? Because you are meant to mentor. Why is it important for you to deliberately invest in people? So maybe you're there and you don't know the power of mentorship. So I want to read for you. Let me read 3 verses for us. So the first verse is Proverbs 11:14. And Proverbs 11:14 says this. It says that where there's no guidance, a people fall, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety. Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in the abundance of counselors, there is safety. And this verse is saying that the power of mentorship is if you don't have guidance, if somebody does not have guidance, they will fall. They are going to make terrible mistakes. Which means if they have guidance and they have mentors, there's so much beauty that they actually have opportunities to rise and succeed and win because they have people. And then the second part of that, in an abundance of counselors, there is safety. Now, not only are they going to be, not fall, they are going to be safe. Safe emotionally, safe physically, safe financially, safe in all aspects that the mentor can be able to contribute in the life of this mentee. And the truth is, a lot of mentors do not know that they are actually protecting the lives of mentees by investing in their lives. And I like to give an example. For example, when you are growing up, you had challenges with relationships, like I had. I'll give you a personal example. In my life, I through a mentor, I got to escape the challenge of getting into unnecessary dating relationships for around 7 years. Because this mentor, when I was a bit younger, 21, I think, he came and said, Ernest, there are two ways for you. You can start getting into relationships right now that are necessary and, trying to start up your love, or you can pause that part of your life and discover your purpose and grow. And so he asked me, when do you want to get married? And I told him I want to get married when I'm 27 years. And so he said, so for the next 5-6 years, you don't need to be in a relationship. You can literally use this time and your energy and your emotions towards your purpose, towards growing yourself as a leader, towards your career. And you can focus on that until the time you're ready. Now, he did not say I cannot have friendships, but I was not going to get emotional because I am not planning to get married. And this is another conversation we're going to have later about how do you help young people relationally. And it made a lot of sense. And so for 6-7 years, I literally did not have a relationship, an opposite sex relationship that was emotional, because why was I going to date? I had the opportunity to take the time to build my friendships with people, for them to know me, for me to know them. I got to know how women think. And so when I was prepared for my marriage, or rather for a courtship and a relationship going towards marriage, I already had the wisdom and the experiences and the great friendships I needed. That would have been an opportunity I missed if I did not have a mentor telling me, Ernest, do this. So I was saved in that regard from unnecessary pains and unnecessary challenges. Second part, another verse there, Proverbs 15, verse 22, the Bible says, let me read for you, that without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. Without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. Which means when you as a mentor, you invest in the lives of someone, they are not going to make mistakes. They are not going to fail. Which means, since you have probably done some of those mistakes in your past, let's say you're a business person, you had a business, you started up, it's broken even, it's now in profitability. But there's a young person who's starting, they're in startup, and they need all this wisdom and the experiences to be able to know how best do they do it. When you step in as a mentor, two things happen. They will not repeat your mistakes. So if they would have failed naturally because of their lack of knowledge, you're present to give advice, to give insight, and so they'll be able to succeed. With success, then they are actually going to go higher than you went, which means you've just saved them from failing, but you've also lifted up them a bar higher to succeed other than to fail. Now imagine that is an opportunity, and that's power of mentorship. Where there's supposed to be failure, success comes and multiply success, because they reduce on the mistakes you've made, they don't repeat them, but then they grow and become better on your successes because you succeeded. So they can do some of these things faster. Whatever took you 2 years will take them a year. So they get to succeed faster because they have a mentor. And thirdly, let me share one more verse before we go into a small break and then come and say, how do we piece all these things together? So Proverbs 24 verse 6, the Bible says, for by wise guidance you can wage war, and in an abundance of counselors there is victory. He is saying, Solomon is saying, and Solomon received a lot of wisdom, and we're going to be talking about that, in the next episode. we have this guy who is receiving guidance, wise guidance. And because of receiving wise guidance, he is able to wage war. You are able to fight life battles because you have already been shown the strategy, you've been shown do's and don'ts. So you are actually prepared for war. You're prepared. For example, a young man who is single and he's thinking about marriage, and he has all this, a lot of young people go through, challenges relationally before they get married, or even in courtship time, in premarital counseling. But they have this man who's present to give guidance and wisdom. So they're able to know this is how you do things, this is how you don't do things, this is how you work on this. And a lady on the same level. A lady has been there, has done that, has been able to go through, a process, even maybe a best couple. And a lady can actually pick, a married lady can pick a single lady and show her, these are the things you do. These are the roles. This is how you become successful. This is how you do these things so that you can actually be able to win. And so the reality is, by them being able to run through, they are able to do much more. Which means they don't repeat those mistakes, they get to do the right things. Question for you. Is there an abundance of counselors? Let me read for you another verse that shows the power of mentorship. And in Proverbs 24 verse 6, the Bible says, it says this. It says, for by wise guidance you can wage war. In an abundance of counselors there is victory. Imagine, because of your wise guidance, a young person can be able to wage war. A mentee can be able to wage war. Which means, if they are about to make a mistake, or they're about to get into an area they don't know, and they need to fight. For example, relationally, a married man, a single man wants to get married, and they want to figure out how do we do relationships. They can come on board, or as a mentor, you can come on board, and you can literally journey with them, showing them we don't do this, we do this. And so in them being able to succeed in having a good relationship, they have somebody giving them direction and wisdom. Also, it says this, in abundance of counselors there's victory. And we usually tell this, especially to people who are single. Like if you're planning to get married, it's good for you to get a lot of people who you journey with. You go and visit them, they give you wisdom, they have different experiences. Some, maybe for example, they are very good financially, they have wisdom financially, relationally. They can be able to literally help you in your planning for a great marriage. And so you are going to be able to have victory and success in your marriage because you have somebody who's journeying with you. So these are the reasons. So what are reasons that you give why you don't mentor? Is it because you don't feel it will make a difference? Is it because you don't know where to start? Is it because you've never experienced great mentorship? Is it because you are abandoned or you are hurt by a mentor? Is it because you don't know the power of mentorship? The truth is, regardless of these reasons why you are reluctant, there is so much power in mentorship. And when you come back, I will actually show you certain areas of things you can be able to do to become not only just a reluctant person, but a relating mentor. Somebody who can begin having conversations and being able to impact and influence the lives of other people.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Hello, everybody. It's a sound of praise and worship
Jehovah,
to whom created us. Join me, Joy Temba, every Sunday morning from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. live on Nisi Television for live Sunday service that is filled with the presence of God through worship, word, and encouragement.
If you gotta be for me, we love you, Lord. You will live for.
Why do we get sick? And what can we do to avoid becoming ill? We bring you a weekly health show where we tackle everyday health problems. Now, Every week, we will be joined by a health expert within their field, and they are going to discuss on the causes and preventions of health problems that we might face in our everyday life. Join me, Lana Nyambura, every Monday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on the 911 show, where your health meets the experts, only on Nisi Television, the House of Rest.
Welcome back to Pass It On, a show that wants to invest in mentors, professionals, people like you and me who can be able to invest their lives, their wisdom in the lives of other people. Today's topic, we are talking about you are meant to mentor, meaning that you are a person who has the value, you have the wisdom that somebody is supposed to be learning from. Before the break, we had talked about 5 reasons why people are reluctant to mentor, and we may say most people don't mentor because, and you might also be saying, I don't mentor because you don't feel it will make a difference, you don't know where to start, you never experienced great mentorship, you are abandoned or you are hurt by a mentor, and so you're not interested in mentoring, or you don't know the power of mentorship. And we give you 3 verses that talk about, and I want to pick the last verse that we talked about, and Proverbs 24 verse 6, and it says that for by wise guidance you can wage war, in an abundance of counselors there is victory. Now, one of the biggest opportunities that you as a mentor have is that you can literally bring somebody, a mentee, wisdom, grace, experience, do's and don'ts, because you've been there. And for most people, they always wonder, how can I practically begin that conversation? And this is just beyond connecting. Maybe you already have people in my life. What are conversations I can be able to have with them? And how do I literally enable these individuals to, to succeed? How do I make sure that they are victorious? How do I make sure that they wage war and win? I want to give you a couple of ideas. In fact, I want to ask you 3 questions. Okay? The first question, do you know a little more about any aspect of life or your Christian life other than another person? This is how you know you are meant to mentor. Do you know a little more about any aspect of your Christian life or your life than another person? Which means, by your life and the experiences you have, are there certain things you know more than somebody else? And in a later, episode, we'll actually be talking about 7 or 8 areas of places where you actually know something that you can be able to transmit. So think about it. Think about marriage. Maybe you're married. Are there certain aspects you know about marriage life that a young person does not know? Are there aspects about financial life that you know that a young person does not know? Are there aspects, for example, how to to invest, or maybe how to save, or how to run a budget? Are there specific things you know about financial life? Are there things you know about social life than another young person? And an example in this is like do's and don'ts when you have friendships. Or maybe being able to say, you know what, if you're gonna run a social life or friendships, these are things you must adhere to. Maybe you went through friendship challenges, or maybe you are hurting friends, or you're taken advantage of. And so when a young person comes and this is an area of challenge for them, you can come on board and tell them, you know what, this you don't do. You want to have great friendships, this you don't do. It could also be professionally, in the place you work. Are there certain things you know that somebody who's come in does not know? Maybe you're even a supervisor or a lead manager in management, and you can see some potential young people who can be visionaries, but they don't know how to do things. They probably have missed out, and you have the competence, you have the experience, the wisdom learned for over many years, and you can be able to say, since I know some of these things, I'm going to make the life of this, workmate easier, because they are young and they are vibrant, and invest in them. It could be even you are a pastor, And you have a lot of wisdom on how ministry runs. You've been there, you've done it, you've have experiences of how men, how pastors and lead ministers do things. And you say, you know what, I'm going to pick a team of 4 to 5 or 10 of my leaders, and I'm going to pour my life to them. So that since I have this wisdom and I know how things work, I'm going to make sure that they are going to know those things. So question, in your own life, do you know a little more than about any aspect of your life or your Christian life than another person? Second question, have you learned anything from a spiritual mistake a mentee hasn't made? Have you learned anything from a spiritual mistake a mentee hasn't made? I want to give you a practical example. When you started life, let's say you're married, you're in your 10th year of marriage or more. When you are starting out in your first to the 5th year of marriage, there are certain mistakes you made. Of course you remember them. Maybe you are too harsh, maybe you felt you're the leader and no one should tell you, or maybe you say, like I remember once, giving a practical example. In my earlier years, I thought that the man is the one who's the organizer. The man is the one who knows everything. I am the one leading my family, and this is what we'll do. And it didn't take me long before I realized that I actually may have a better planner in my wife than I was. For me, I'm more visionary. Let's go by faith. Things will work. But for her, she was, organized, has a plan. This is what needs to be done. These are the steps. And so we were a better team. But before I used to fight that and say, I'm the man. This is what we're going to do. And then being given the opportunity, after a while, you fail so many times until you get to the place you say, I think it is not wise for me to continue this. And so you can approach a young man who's planning to get married and say, hey, don't act macho. It is good for you to sit and do this. And you can give experiences. I did this and I thought I was the best, and I probably, almost ran my family finances down the drain because I did not know how to do things. And guess what? Based on the mistakes you've done academically, relationally, in your profession, because we are saying mentorship is an all-rounded area. You can be able to have these people not repeat those mistakes. Also, it could also be even spiritually. When you became a Christian, certain, maybe you were in and out many times and you didn't go through discipleship, and later you learned, how to walk with the Lord, and you remember, you used to, do in ministry as a way of paying back or earning salvation, and now you realize later it's actually a love relationship, and you can be able to pick somebody, a new believer, and journey with them and show them, these are basic principles of how to practically walk with the Lord. So it could be in different areas. It could be even in manhood, where you say, I made mistakes as a man when I was a single man. These are things I did. These are things I should not have been. Got into relationships, got into drunkenness, got into peer pressure, got into pornography, got into all this. And these are mistakes that I made. And now looking in retrospect, I look back and I'm like, you know what? I should not allow another person to make these mistakes. And so you go and pick a high schooler and you journey with them and share. Look, these are mistakes I did. I got into these addictions and they have totally messed up my life. I have challenges here, or my relationships are affected right now here because I never did this. And so they don't get repeat because you have made a mistake in your past and you say you not allow this person to make that mistake again. And then, have you made a bet? The third question is, so the first question was, do you know a little more about any aspect of life or the Christian life than another person? So you're meant to mentor in that regard. Have you learned anything from a life or a spiritual mistake that a mentee hasn't made? And so you can add value there. And then, have you made a tiny bit of progress in your relationships or in your relationship with God, or in living life in a more fulfilled way? And this question basically is asking if you have ever made a simple progress, like maybe if you would say in your relationship with God, you're at 10, it's supposed to be 10, you're at 7, but a year ago you were at 5. So you've made a 2-digit growth. You are meant to mentor because you can literally pick somebody who's at a 5 or at a 3 and help them get to a 5, or they're at a 5 and learn them to where you are as a 7. And Paul said it very well, follow me as I follow Christ, which means he's saying the things I am learning, I'm gonna actually empower them, to you. There are things that I have thought were important that needed to be done, but because now I am here, I am actually literally going to make sure you learn them. Let me read you a verse. In Second Timothy chapter 2, verse 2, and that's actually one of my life verses on mentorship. The Bible says this. It says, let me read from verse 1. You then, my child, be strengthened by the grace that is in Christ Jesus, and what you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men who will also be able to teach others also. And this verse is simply saying this, that Paul had learned certain things, and he decided to teach Timothy. And Timothy was supposed to learn them, and once he understood them, to be able to pass on to faithful men. And the faithful men will be able to pass them on to others. You see, the wisdom you have, the experience that you have can go to 4 generations. You could be the Paul, and you reach out to a Timothy, and Timothy reaches faithful men, and faithful men reach others. So 4 generations will be impacted by your wisdom. What am I trying to say? You are actually meant to mentor. If you know a little more than any other person, if you have learned anything from a mistake in your past, if you have gotten a little bit of progress, you have a huge opportunity to actually mentor. So as I conclude our conversation today, this is what I'm saying. You were meant to mentor. You are supposed to be with your life and with your experiences in all these things God has taught you. In these things you've learned experiences in life, in business, in your profession. You are meant to invest them in the life of somebody else. So this was a great conversation, and I hope from today you can actually be able to say, from today, I am going to pick on people, I'm going to mentor them, I'm going to challenge them. In fact, we've been bringing this conversation, and there's something we are calling 4-on-1. And 4-on-1 is basically challenging you to pick 4 young men, if you're a man, or 4 young ladies, if you're a lady. And you say what? Mary, Martha, Joyce, and Joanne, I'm going to journey with you for 1 year. And we are trying to say this. You know what? What if week 1, you just picked Mary and you spent an hour with them and add value to them, get to know them, connect with them? If you struggle on that area, there's already, on our Facebook page, you can look at it and you can be able to listen on how do you connect with a young person. Okay. Week 2, you pick Martha. So you pick Mary, you pick Martha. That week, you pick Joanne. 4th week, you pick Judy. So the idea is you pick 4 people and you journey with them deliberately. And the idea is this. Sometimes it's not about how much you know. Sometimes it's just how much you care. How much are you willing to journey experientially with an individual? Because let me tell you this. If we don't do this, there are certain mistakes people will keep on repeating because you are not sharing. So you have the opportunity today to be able to invest, to be able to challenge, to be able to grow people. And if you don't, who will do it? Who will do that in your home with your children? Who will do that with your relatives who are there? Who will do it in the place where you stay? In the community that you live in? Who will do it in the place that you work? Who will do it in the place that you go to school? All these are amazing opportunities that we've been given. Who will do it amongst your friends? Because the truth is, if we don't become deliberate in mentoring, there's a lot of loss of generations that, of wisdom, of experiences that should actually be replicated and lives becoming better. So I want you to know from today that you were meant to mentor. This has been your host, Ernest Nyingi, on Pass It On. Looking forward to see you next week as we talk about another conversation of just actually, what are values that we need to push? What are relationships as an individual you need to have in order for you to have your life become better? And then we'll also talk about what is the impact of lack of mentorship. What are the things that we stand to lose if we don't invest? Until next week, have a good evening.